copyrighted. Not copyrighted. If you want to get any of my video materials, they're not copyrighted. Not copyrighted.
Scientists, but some of my best friends are scientists. So I just want to make one small, quick point.
Okay.
Be gentle with me, I'm a little nervous. I believe I heard you say earlier that things that you can't observe directly, like sea lions losing their limbs as they move into the water, over time, those kinds of things are fairy tales. Is that correct?
Well, no, he said, if a sea lion keeps going back to the water, which they do, that's going to prove that they, are losing legs and gaining fins. That's proof that sea lions are designed to live in water like they do. They do pretty good in the water.
How was it that you described that it was a fairy tale?
Well, he was talking about how whales came from some kind of land-based animal and moved into the water and lost their legs. I said, well, you can believe that, but that's not. We don't observe that.
And why we don't? So we don't observe that, so it's a fairy tale, correct?
It's something that takes place in the imagination.
I see.
People believe these animals make these changes. They never see them.
Because they're not directly observed.
Well, right.
Right.
So if it takes millions of years, it's now not part of science. It's part of a fairy tale.
So it's occurred to me that you've been making this claim multiple times through the evening that things that are not directly observed are not scientific.
That's the definition of science. It's observable, testable.
But science actually consists of a lot of things that are not directly observed, that are indirectly observed and are inferential. So I'm just going to leave that at that. But I would actually like to say that you're actually being inconsistent, because earlier you said that the Genesis story was a good story and that the Bible was a good story. And I don't think that you are 6,000 years old. So I don't think that you have directly observed. Well, I'm a very new lawyer.
I'm not asking for the Genesis account to be taught.
No, but I would like you to distinguish it from a fairy tale, because you've said that things that are not directly observable are not science and are therefore fairy tales. And I would like you to distinguish the Genesis account of creation from a fairy tale.
The difference we have with the Genesis account is we have an eyewitness observing.
But you do not have any direct evidence. You have not directly observed it, and you cannot.
You don't have any evidence that Abe Lincoln was president 125 years ago.
That's right. So according to your logic, that's a fairy tale.
No.
All I'm saying is that according to your logic, Genesis is a fairy tale, religion is a fairy tale, and evolution is a fairy tale. All of those are fairy tales.
Science is things we can observe, test, or demonstrate. I think
and
we
do observe and test and demonstrate. We have indirect observations as well as direct observations, and that's what justifies science.
Would you tell me, as a
Genesis
lawyer,
is distinguishable from science because it is not directly observable by anybody.
Okay, as an attorney, I would like to know,
I'm happy to.
what is your best evidence for evolution?
I'm not a scientist. I don't observe creation as neither.
I'm not asking for creation to be taught.
Well, it's called religion. Woven together a wide tissue of science.
I know it's a huge fairy tale. I agree. We got to work on this. I'm working on it. Okay.
Conspiracy, and I'm not.
It's a big conspiracy. You're right. Go ahead. Last question. We're gonna have to quit. Oh, I gotta get the next guy though. I mean, we gotta be out of here in 6 minutes.
Yeah. Well, there's enough of us that can hold the janitors out.
Okay. Very.
I'm Sarah.
I don't think you're correct that 99% of the professors believe in evolution. Washington Times did a survey May 31st. It's in the Washington Times, 1998, the last one I'm aware of, 6 years ago, that said 55% of the natural scientists in the United States believe in Darwinian evolution. That's slightly more than half, 55%.
What that was referring to is essentially whether those evolutionists were atheists or theists.
No, the question was simply, do you believe in Darwinian evolution? 55% responded yes, 45% responded no. So, it's not correct to say that 90%.
What was the definition within the context of the question of Darwinian evolution?
My point is, it wouldn't matter if everybody believed in evolution. Again, it's a belief.
Does believe in evolution, not necessarily on the specific.
Wait. What did you just say? Everyone does believe in evolution?
Practically all scientists do believe in the relevant field.
Let me ask you a question then. Is it possible for a scientist to not believe in evolution? Or by definition, are they automatically disqualified from being a scientist because they believe in creation? Would that the guy who invented the MRI, would you consider him a scientist? He believes in creation.
He's not in a relevant field.
Not in a relevant field. Okay. What you're arguing here is an argument from majority opinion, and you better take a debate class son. This won't hold up at all.
I'm not arguing from majority opinion.
Yes, you are.
I'm arguing from the universal opinion among the experts.
Okay.
Was
there a universal opinion among the experts in the Soviet Union that communism is good 15 years ago? Was that a universal opinion?
probably wasn't from things that I've heard, and that is irrelevant to the question.
It's very relevant to the question. You have the same academic denial of freedom here at Berkeley University.
You are right that it is relevant to the question.
It's very relevant. Just because there's academic suppression of a particular view at a particular time in history has nothing to do with truth. The truth is, the evolution theory is only supported by these lies I shared. Now, take the lies out of the books and tell me what evidence do you have to support your theory. I want to see it.
Okay, well, let me try to do that. The essential basis, I believe, for much of what led toward evolutionary theory was the idea that species change over time. We find that because of the sequencing of the fossil record.
Wait. No, it's one topic at a time. You're saying the evidence for evolution comes from the sequence in the fossil record. Would you entertain the thought that there is no fossil record, there are simply a bunch of bones in the dirt, and we are putting our interpretation on them? And if you find an animal buried lower than another animal, it may be a result of hydrologic sorting, it may be pure coincidence, it is not proof. Wait. In a court of law,
hydrological sorting would not apply.
Your evidence would not fly as evidence. Correct. So,
now,
would it be possible
sorting as an explanation for the sequence of the fossil record would not apply?
I'm saying
because it does not fit with
the
water
evolutionary
dynamics. No, because it does not fit with water dynamics. Hydrological sorting does not explain the sequencing of the fossil record.
First place, there is not a good sequence into the fossils. Begin number one. Secondly, fossils are
You will never find a whale in the Cambrian layers. You will never find any mammal in the Cambrian layers. You will not find a bird in the Cambrian layers. You will not find anything but animals that existed within that period within the Cambrian layers.
Who is interpreting whether a layer is Cambrian or not? Would you agree?
Obviously, the Cambrian layers are that area. Between, say, several hundred feet a second. I do not know the exact area. They are an area which are beneath these other layers, in which you will only find these animals.
Let's let a few more people ask questions. There's a lot of people who want to ask questions tonight. But you are a classic example of how your training is blinding you to the obvious, okay? You're saying there's limestone. Limestone is found in
Limestone is not what makes up the Cambrian layers. What makes up the Cambrian layers is the presence of those specific types of fossils within the layer, and different types of fossils that are always the same types of fossils above the layer and above it.
What you just said is precisely my point. The presence of Cambrian layers is determined by the types of fossils they find in them. Doesn't matter where you find it. The fact is, it has these trilobites or these animals, therefore it's Cambrian.
It is determined by its place in the sequence. You'll find these types of fossils in the Cambrian layer. You'll find these types of fossils.
You need to watch video number 4 with an open mind. It'll get you converted over. If you're really, maybe your mind's already closed, I don't know. But if you're really open-minded, you need to look at this one more time. Okay, the geologic column. I showed you petrified trees standing up, connecting these layers. Are you still telling me those layers are different ages?
What?
You still believe they're different ages, don't you?
I'm saying that you're not going to find.
All right, let's let somebody else talk for a minute. Put in the line. Look at somebody else. Okay.
Okay, nobody understands what gravity is. I mean, I taught physics. We know, the velocity of different objects based on what planet they're on and all that stuff. But there isn't anybody who knows what gravity is. How does the Earth know where this chalk is right now?
It's at least understood.
It doesn't. That's the whole point. It doesn't have the attributes of personality. It isn't. Cruelty doesn't enter into this process at all because we define cruelty. You shoot your dog when it's hit with a car, you're putting it out of its misery. You're still killing it. Is it cruel or not? That's a value that we put on there.
Okay, now let's take that same analogy for those who say God is cruel by killing the infants in Sodom and Gomorrah. That's the same. Now just follow this through now. Because of their just horrible practices with all sorts of things that they were doing, incest and homosexuality and things that filled that society with diseases, God's people are going to move into this area. God says, I want you to kill the whole population for their own good and for your good, so this disease is wiped out off the earth. Then the guy's a smart God. He's a smart God to command the execution. It's like me pulling weeds out of my flower garden.
He created all disease. If God's created it all, He created the diseases. So
all right. Wait. Let's not say God created the diseases. Some of the diseases are perfectly fine and helpful to the different organisms, like sheep. Sheep get venereal disease. It's no big deal. It's like a cold. But when sailors have sex with sheep on board ships, and sailors get venereal disease, and that's how venereal disease got started. Study your history.